How's it going, guys? And I'm here with your Elimination Chamber review. So I'm going to start off by saying that this show, it could have been a lot worse. You know, one thing, you take a look at this event, and you have to ask yourselves a question. Like, what is the point of really having a wrestling event if you don't have the world champions on the show? Your world champions are your draws. Usually the champion will represent one of the most popular wrestler talents on your roster. So you're probably going to want to have those guys at the top. And, I can't remember, aside from the past 5 years or so, where there's ever been wrestling pay-per-views without the world champion being featured on the show. And, this would usually be like, okay, when there would have been like one champion not being there, the other champion would be there when they had two belts. Now, when Brock Lesnar had won the title from Cena in 2014, there were a lot of shows where like the IC belt or the number one contender match would be the main event. And those are some of the most forgettable pay-per-views of all time. I couldn't even tell you what those main events were. And here we have another show where there's no world champions on it. But this time, there's two champions. And neither of them are on there. Because, both of them are part-timers. Now, it is wise because as far as I can see, there's no one else right now on the roster who's not, I don't want to use the word deserve, but no one is positioned really to keep those belts. Like the way the Fiend was being booked, I explained this in numerous videos already. He was not looking like a world champion. He was an afterthought. And I need to say, how can you be a world champion and be an afterthought? You could ask Bray Wyatt. You could ask the numerous other champions that we've had throughout how many years. It's really gotten that bad where a world champion could actually be put on a back burner. I don't know how that was. That would have been almost impossible 20 years ago for that to happen. Even 15 years ago, it would have seemed impossible for a champion to be forgotten about. But anyway, let's take a look at this show and let's see how this whole thing turned out. So he started off with Daniel Bryan defeating Drew Gulak in the opening match of the pay-per-view. And Drew Gulak gives Daniel Bryan a run for his money. And I'm just going to basically say this. Drew Gulak is a talented, technical wrestler. I was watching this match. I enjoyed this match. This was actually a match that I didn't fast forward through. I watched the whole thing. There was some really good technical wrestling throughout. I like, a lot of the transitions and things that they did. There wasn't any over-the-top high spots. This showed two smaller guys actually going at it with no suicide dives and no shooting star presses or planches over the top rope. Yes, there were some kicks, from Daniel Bryan mostly, but, it was a lot of like, Greco-Roman style technical wrestling. And I really enjoyed that because I was like, finally we get a match with smaller guys where it doesn't have to be a luchador fest. Because half the time that's what it is. It's something that I've seen in ROH 15 years ago. But now, we've got these guys here. And of course I've talked about Daniel Bryan, how he's different than the rest because unlike a lot of these other guys, they actually know, he knows how to actually wrestle, not like flying acrobatics. But the only problem I had with this match is just how much Gulak dominated it. And they were talking about how, how this guy, like, got Curtis Axel a match and got Heath Slater a match and everything. And they was saying, like, how good they did in those matches, even though those matches were like 2-3 minutes, with Bryan mostly dominating them. So I don't know, like, the announcers are like trying to change history as they're talking about this, and I don't see, like, it, most people who watch these pay-per-views have probably watched Raw and SmackDown, because more people watch Raw and SmackDown than are watching the pay-per-views, because a lot more people are watching it than are subscribed to the network. So when you change history like this, you're insulting the intelligence of everyone who's tuned in to watch the pay-per-view, to say the very least. So I'm not understanding that at all. But anyway, it's kind of disturbing when a guy whose Gulak is like the same size as Daniel Bryan. And you might be saying that, like, okay, this is a guy that, is the same size as Bryan, so he's kind of matching him in technical skill. The only problem that I have with this is Daniel Bryan took the Fiend to the limit. Daniel Bryan beat Kane. Daniel Bryan beat Batista. He beat Randy Orton in the same match. Daniel Bryan has beaten a lot of guys that are a lot bigger than him. And they're talking about Daniel Bryan, like, Gulak might cause him to have another neck injury. And, I would kind of be straying away from the story of him having this concussion. Because the thing is, this guy came back from a career-threatening injury so he can have a match with Drew Gulak. And this is what I talked about extensively in my SmackDown review. So if you want a little bit more, of a rant on that, you could go check that out. But I have to say, he came back so he can have a match and be dominated by Drew Gulak. What has Drew Gulak done to deserve? Like I said, yes, he's a good technical wrestler. He proved himself in this match. But when there's so many other people, like Elias is not on this pay-per-view. Baron Corbin is not on this pay-per-view. You couldn't find anything for Roman Reigns to do on this pay-per-view. Randy Orton is not on this pay-per-view. I mean, it's maddening. Where's Charlotte? Where has she been? I didn't even mention that during the, what is she on Raw? On the Raw review, she hasn't been there. I mean, where is everybody on this show? But Drew Gulak gets to be on this show. I don't know what to tell you, but and the other thing is that the finish was odd. Gulak doesn't tap out, but rather passes out in the hold. Which, remember when passing out in the hold and not tapping out used to be something special? Remember, like, you had Brett, Stone Cold passing out to the sharpshooter at WrestleMania 13. Oh, God, am I really comparing that match to this one? But, that used to be reserved for, like, wrestlers that, were too proud to tap. Are you telling me that Drew Gulak is the 205 Live guy who was doing nothing prior to this on 205 Live? A show that doesn't even exist for any particular reason other than to showcase cruiserweights. The belt is not even on that show anymore, mind you. It's in NXT. And I don't watch either show, mind. But this is the thing. He's passing out in this hold because he's just so tough. What? Well, how? Like, I'm not understanding that. That doesn't make any sense to me. You can't just have everyone pass, and I've been seeing this. Oh, all our guys are tough. Enough with this 50-50 booking where everyone's a tough guy. He's not a tough guy. I'm sorry, but Drew Gulak is not coming off to me as one of the tough ones. Sorry. But right before WrestleMania, this is a guy that at WrestleMania 30 won against, I have to say it again, I'm sorry, but against Batista and Randy Orton. He was just at the Royal Rumble taking the Fiend to the limit. A guy who had to get curb stomped 9 times in order to get beat, in order for him to beat Seth Rollins. He actually, he's immune to finishers. Goldberg had to spear him 4 times. And you're telling me that he's the Daniel Bryan of all people. They choose him to have to be taken to the limit by Drew Gulak. Does anyone see the trade-off here, or is this Steiner math to anyone? I mean, this is just, the booking is just so bad here. Anyway, Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode are cutting our promo backstage, and there was like some interference on the screen right there. I thought they were going to do something with the Fiend, or was that supposed to be a lead-in for The Undertaker? But they didn't do that during any other promos, and I just found that to be extremely odd. Andrade defeated Humberto Carrillo. They did the same exact match and the same exact finish as the match he had with Angel Garza. Carrillo and Garza had the same exact match, but remember I complained and said, you're going to have this match and end kind of with, I got you in a little roll-up type of thing. They do the whole victory roll spot, but actually Andrade remembers to grab the tights and act like a heel. But, I would not be surprised if on Raw tonight there actually is going to be like a complete erasing of Angel Garza from the history books. I don't know. I'm just saying it because he wasn't out there with Andrade. You think he would have at least came out there to survey the action, but that wasn't the case. I fast forward through this one. I like Andrade, but I'm not sitting through this copy and paste of a match we've already seen on Raw 2 weeks ago. Miz and Morrison retained in the Elimination Chamber. This was actually a really good chamber match. I was surprised. This was a really randomly put together match. Like, the fact that Lucha House Party was in here really shows that, they didn't have any other team. They just needed to have, they needed to have 6 teams, basically. They needed 6 teams, so they just, they only had one other team to go with, basically, to fill an empty spot. There were a lot of spots here, and I'm going to say this, they've really worn out the doing a move off the chamber or, going through something, but they got pretty creative here. Tucker did a flip off one of the chamber pods, and I thought that was pretty impressive for a big man. He doesn't need to be doing those types of spots, but, Otis, went right through one of the chambers, and he, fell through the whole entire chamber cage to the outside. I thought that was good. Lince Dorado, you might be asking yourselves who, one of the Lucha House Party guys, gets on the top. And I actually remember this 5 years ago when they had, I think it was the last tag team chamber match that they actually did. They had, I think it was Kalisto, if I'm not mistaken. Kalisto did a flip off the top. No, he didn't do a flip. He did a plancha dive, cross body off the top of it. Lince Dorado did a shooting star press, and I'm like, my God, that was impressive. The only thing is, it was done by Lince Dorado of all people. And we're going to forget about this match, basically. Also, after all these spectacular moves, how do you think the match ends? Let me ask you a question. Seriously. After all these moves, boom, through the cage. Off the top, Tucker goes doing a senton right off, doing a dive. And then you've got Lince Dorado doing a shooting star off the top. How does it end? You got this combination, very messy, mind you, of Miz doing a sunset flip and Morrison doing a jackknife cover. So it ends with the roll-up. So the match, you could say, basically ended the same way as the Andrade match, except it was in a chamber. And after, all this, all these crazy spots, this is the anticlimactic finish we get? Like, honestly, like, who says that this is the finish we're going to go with? I mean, honestly, how can you be proud of a finish like that? Like, this is what they planned out. Who suggested that the match end this way? Because honestly, I'm looking at this like, are you serious? That's the way it's going to end after all that? Like, but anyway, I enjoyed it. It's just that, how are they like ending this? Like, and there's a lot of spots here that like, and plus there was really the only story we had here was Tucker and Otis with Dolph Ziggler. That's about it. You know, Ziggler messed with Otis. He also was the one who opened up the chamber, which led to Otis flying out to the outside. So, I mean, they did tell a little bit of a story, but all these other teams, like Lucha House Party, New Day, the Usos, there was nothing here. There was really no reason for them to be there. We got Aleister Black defeating AJ Styles, and like, okay, they did a lot during this match. I'm not gonna say it was a bad match, but watching Aleister Black, like, he's selling the leg. AJ is working the leg over. This is a no disqualification match, and a few problems we have here. Gallows and Anderson are on the outside. It's a no disqualification match. And they're up on the apron. And I love how, like, Michael Cole says, if this wasn't a no disqualification match, they wouldn't be up on the apron. Did anyone realize while watching this match that these guys could have jumped in at any time? But they choose the moment when the Aleister Black does a Meteora. He does Sasha Banks' move through the table on the outside. Like, why is he doing that move? Like, I don't know. Something with Aleister Black doing a move where he's just kind of like sitting down on the guy's chest. That, you know, when Sasha Banks does it, it kind of looks a little silly. It's kind of like a sillier version of Rey Mysterio's seated senton. But I don't know. You've got Black doing it. And AJ, who's about to like face off against Undertaker, once again is like being taken to the limit by Aleister Black. Then when Black is like about to set him up for the Black Mass kick, like, here's the other thing. This guy is getting his leg. It's like so many problems here. This guy is getting his leg worked over, and he uses his legs to take that. He could have done any move. Any move through that table. He could have done an elbow drop. He could have done a cross body. He could have done a power bomb. But he does the Meteora, move that involves your legs. Then he's also setting him up for the spin kick, the Black Mass kick, with his legs. And the thing is, this guy is using his legs. After they've been worked over, how about selling? Then Gallows and Anderson finally get in the ring after AJ's been trashed. Like, these guys could have jumped in at any moment. What are they just like, oh, we respect sportsmanship, so we're going to stay on the outside? Like, there's no storytelling here where they're like banned from ringside. No, it's like, we're just going to, they're bad guys. They're heels, but they're going to just stay on the outside because it's good sportsmanship, I suppose. How would Aleister Black, you know, while we're on the topic on Raw of like signing contracts and everything, how is Aleister Black like agreeing to this, having these guys on the outside and everything? Like, okay, maybe you want to say like he's so tough that he doesn't care, but I would say that this is completely unbelievable because after he got screwed on Raw, you're going to have him just go out there like an idiot. Like, oh yeah, I'll go out there with 3 guys and get beat up again. So then the lights go out and Undertaker comes out, choke slams AJ. Great to see Taker once again. And then we get Aleister Black doing the Black Mass kick with the same leg that's been worked over the whole match. And it's a high impact kick. Does he even sell it? Does he even hold his leg or anything to indicate pain? Nope. Gets the pin and beats AJ. Okay, so you could at least say that Taker cost AJ the match. So now there's going to be heat there. Alright, that's fine. But, like, with Aleister Black here, it really got Seth Rollins vibes from him not selling it, like partially selling it. Then it really reminded me of Seth Rollins and Triple H from WrestleMania a few years ago. I'm going to work over your busted ankle, and then you're just going to come back and do moves off the top rope. That's so ridiculous. Like, you wasted our time. The story you're trying to tell is you're working over Aleister Black's leg. And then at the end, the guy doesn't have any decency to even sell for AJ. And just, this is what I'm saying. Like, even though guys like this have promise, I'm looking at it and then I'm looking at work from 20 years ago. And I honestly have to say, like, how has the work not gotten better, but it's gotten worse? Like, why is it that wrestling can't progress? It has to regress. This is a question I've asked for years here on this channel, but I really want the answer to it. Why does it not progress? Why does it regress? And I have to say it's because of the participants, and it's the training that's involved. How disgraceful is it that you have veterans like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, veterans of selling and selling for whole entire matches? Shawn Michaels selling for 60 minutes for Bret Hart. And no one like pulls these guys aside and say, hey, you need to sell. You need to like show some pain and injury when a body part's getting worked over. No! Everything is fine. How much you want to bet Aleister Black goes backstage and no one says anything to him at all? Hey, great match there, Aleister. Really like that kick, buddy. But no one's going to say anything at all about the fact that he didn't even sell for AJ. Then we get the Street Profits defeating Rollins and Murphy. And here's the problem I have with this, is it was just so much going on. I was fast forwarding through this. There's 1,000 things going on. The Street Profits, there's a whole bunch of different moves. And I'm just like, give me a break already. Like, I'm watching Seth Rollins. And, he's got backup from AOP. And somehow the Street Profits are able to overcome. Okay, the Viking Raiders came out at total random. And then the part that just made me wince. Kevin Owens comes out of the crowd eating a box of popcorn. I'm just saying, when a guy like Owens, who technically is obese, is coming out of the crowd eating popcorn. This is a guy who, when he was injured for months, sat on his fat behind and didn't do a thing to work out, didn't get into shape, didn't do anything. I think back to Dean Ambrose, who's John Moxley in AEW now. This is a guy that when he was injured, he worked out, he bettered himself, he came back and he looked like $1 million. But what do we have now? We have Kevin Owens here coming out. He does a stunner to Seth Rollins. And what do the commentators say? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, a Stone Cold reference. Why is this guy allowed to do the stunner? He's coming out, popcorn falling all over his face, stuff in his mouth on the way out. Blah, 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 blah. It's just, it was like disgusting. This guy is fat. He's so overrated. He's not even over with this crowd. And then I'm watching this other, like, girl on the outside. She's saying, no! Like, no, I'm just talking about an audience member now. Like, that was probably the most entertaining part of this match. She goes, no! Don't you dare! Like, wow. Like, talk about, like, a mark right there. And it was a female. That was really funny. Okay. Anyway, not here to make fun of audience members, but that was just something I had to kind of point out. So yeah, Street Profits end up winning. They take advantage of the situation and they get the win. Then Sami Zayn is backstage and he's cutting a promo and saying, that He's going to take on Braun Strowman by himself. First thing when he gets into the ring, he tags out. Then they do the double suplex. Sami Zayn hits a big boot. And Braun Strowman loses the Intercontinental Championship to Sami Zayn. I have to say this. Sami Zayn is entertaining. I like his antics and everything. But, like, putting the IC belt on him, it really shows that every single person has had this belt at this point. It doesn't matter, if you're a jobber. It doesn't matter if you're a big star ready for, to build you. Remember when Macho Man used the Intercontinental title as a stepping stone before his World Championship title reign? Intercontinental Championship meant something. It meant that you were next in line, that you were being groomed to be the world champion. Now, remember, it worked for The Rock. It worked for Stone Cold. It worked for Bret Hart. Numerous others. You could go down the list of how many people have been Intercontinental Champion, then became World Champion. Shawn Michaels, Triple H. Now, Sami Zayn is your Intercontinental Champion. And I like his antics. I found it entertaining. But, man, Braun Strowman had this belt for, 3 weeks? What? Is that going to be the match at WrestleMania? Are we going to have Sami Zayn and Braun Strowman one-on-one? So Braun Strowman struggles to finally have a singles match at Mania. He's been fighting against goofballs from SNL and Battle Royals. He hasn't even been booked on the show. The only time he's actually been officially on WrestleMania on the main card, not the pre-show, has been his match with the referee's son. That's it. That's it. That's the only WrestleMania moment that Braun Strowman truly has. And the next thing that he's probably going to have is a match against Sami Zayn, probably for a rematch against the IC title, so he could get him one-on-one finally. Wow. Braun Strowman, I feel bad for this guy. He puts in the effort and everything, but, okay, I get it. The guy showed up to work late a lot, but I've said, fine him, release him, do what you gotta do, but you're putting your product, on hold, just so you could punish this guy? All right. Then in the main event, of course, it's got to be the women there, right? I don't know why, but in my SmackDown review, I thought that there was going to be a number one contenders chamber match for the world title, but then I remembered the matches are already set. So I made a mistake, actually. I apologize for that. In my SmackDown review, I said something like I thought Sheamus was in the chamber. I think that was the plan originally, but, then, of course, we had Golberg winning the belt, so that kind of canceled that out, I guess. Anyway, Shayna Baszler wins the chamber. She actually submitted every single person in the chamber, which I liked. The only thing that I didn't like is I have to say, thank God that I actually turned this event on at 11:30 last night and watched it by fast forwarding through it. I'll tell you, that little thing where it lets you move 10 seconds, in intervals, I love that feature because that's how I watched this match. Because there was so much dead time during these things because she ran in there, submitted these, them one by one, and she's waiting for people to get released from the chamber so she could do it. She does it to she did it to Liv Morgan and a bunch of others. Sarah Logan and everything. And I'm watching Sarah Logan in this, and I'm just like, how is she even in here to begin with? But anyway, Asuka's screaming in Japanese, which was pretty entertaining, but entertaining in the wrong ways. It's so weird that they're letting her come out there and scream in Japanese. No one has a clue what she's saying, and I know that bothers a lot of people, but seriously, this is a show. This is not New Japan, where they're actually having this girl get on the mic on Raw and like cut promos in Japanese. And the only thing that anyone could be getting out of this is that, you know, we don't know what she's saying, so it's either comical. I don't know if it's supposed to be scary because we don't know what she's saying and she's making those facial expressions. Like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this? What's supposed to be the takeaway? Anyway, she comes out. Asuka gives her a little run for her money, but then she quickly, you know, slaps her in the in the sleeper, the rear naked choke, whatever it's supposed. Like, honestly, can I ask a question? What really is the difference between a sleeper hold and a rear naked choke? Like, I thought, you know, like, she does this move in normal matches. I thought, like, a choke is supposed to be illegal. But anyway, I guess that's the thing. She's like, the positioning of the arms is a little bit different, but it's like a sleeper hold, really? It's a Roddy Piper sleeper hold. Anyway, she ends up beating her, and, you know, that's basically it. I mean, I liked it. Like, if you're going to build somebody, the only thing is, I'm sorry, Shayna Baszler is not over enough to have, like, several minutes of dead air. Like, there was a good, like, 10 minutes, if you add it all up, of where there's just nothing happening, where her just looking at Asuka and looking at other people in pods and harassing them. Like, you just can't have that. Like, they did that with Brock during the Royal Rumble, but that's Brock Lesnar. He's allowed to do that. Looking at Brock Lesnar, you know, he kind of gets away with that a little bit, where you're allowed to have a little bit of dead air and nothing really going on at the moment. But I'm sorry, you can't have dead air with Shayna Baszler. And I am so sick and tired of, like, the women gotta go on last. We gotta let them make them feel special. Like, I don't care. Honestly, like, it's pretty obvious, judging by the ratings, that no one gives two craps about what goes on in these women matches. I am pretty sure it's not going to main event WrestleMania this year, but I love how they just got to be all like, yeah, we got to have the women in the main event. Like, enough already. Enough. Like, seriously. And stop thinking that the women are so over that you could just have all this dead air. And that's enough. Like, sorry, but having someone scream in Japanese and Shayna Baszler just face to face, that's not good enough. You just can't have that. She's not Brock Lesnar. She's not over enough to have that spot. Okay, I like the way they booked it, but they should have figured something out to make those parts kind of be filled in with a little bit more action. I mean, come on. You just... you can't have all that extra time with, like, nothing going on and just, you know, a lot of tough talking and swagger. I mean, it's not Lesnar. You know, you don't... You know, you don't get to do that with everyone on the roster. That type of stuff is reserved for certain people who could get away with it. Overall, I mean, this show could have been a lot worse. I wasn't crazy about it. But, you know, like, I enjoyed the tag chamber match despite the lackluster finish, to say the least. Gulak and Bryan put on a decent match. Black and AJ, I mean, the match was okay, you know, but the selling thing really bothered me. But, you know, you saw Taker, Street Profits, the thing was with Kevin Owens with the popcorn was ridiculous. Sami Zayn was entertaining. It was kind of pathetic seeing Strowman lose here. And I did like Baszler dominating, but they really should have filled up a lot of that dead air. Anyway, guys, there is your review. I mean... What can I really say here? I mean, the Fiend should have been on this show. They should have done something with Cena. They should have done something with Golberg, something with Reigns. I mean, like, they've done nothing with Charlotte. They didn't do, like, anything really here with so many different guys. Elias, Corbin. There's so many, you know, Rey Mysterio. All these talents just went to waste here. There was so much potential here. And, like, aren't these people insulted that, like, Roman Reigns, the Fiend, they're not on this show, but Drew Gulak gets a spot on this show? Sami Zayn gets a spot on this show? I'm just saying, like, Humberto Carrillo, like, you rather have this guy than some of the others? I don't know. So many weird choices that are being made by this company. Do I find it surprising? Absolutely not, based on their track record, but I'm just saying, like, wow. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. And guys, I'll see you next time.